I'm here with
Sharu.
How old are you and what do you do for a living?
I'm 29 years old, almost 30. What I do for a living, I'm a realtor in the GTA.
So, what were you taught about money growing up and who taught you?
Well, money at first, obviously, when we're all younger, we just thought it was just used to purchase things that we like and things to live. Obviously, as you grow up, you realize this is a very valuable resource and a tool that you could use to be happy, if people would say, or make other possible things that can make your life move up in life as well. So obviously I started learning the value of money and what it really means. So who I learned from, honestly, like just I didn't learn the proper ways from anybody until I actually grew up and started finding the internet and finding ways of how money actually works, what's the value of it, what it's used for, and how to actually make it. So who taught me? Obviously in the beginning, early age, I didn't learn anything when I was young teenager in high school, right? So obviously, like many people, I blew my money as well.
Yeah, me too.
On stupid things that I probably didn't need, or I look back now, which is pointless.
Yeah.
But obviously, as those experiences came along, shaped me and realized that money is really just finite. It's not something you could just grow on trees, like people will say as a metaphor. But so you really got to, when you make that money or the money comes in, you really need to know what to do with it. Either use it for something that you really need to, or put away later and make your money work for you. These things I learned probably after my 20s, nothing before that. Again, first year, second year, I was just out partying.
You mean like in your 20s?
In my 20s.
You said after your 20s, I'm like, yo.
Yeah, in my 20s, like
Yeah.
starting in my 20s. I didn't know, like, so about 10 years ago, I would say, when I started actually learning proper ways of money, how to save properly, not just putting $100 into a bank account and then transferring out at the end of the year for Christmas. That's not saving, right? So obviously you learn the proper ways through experience, through podcasts like this or other influential people speaking about it over the years, and just obviously your own experience is the best way. Experience is the best teacher. So started blowing money on stupid things that I didn't need, like I was saying, and then I realized that obviously this is not the right way, and you gotta have to step it up, right?
When did you learn about like credit cards and shit? Like what the proper way to use a credit card?
So proper way. So credit card I actually learned a long time ago. I got my first credit card, I think like 18, right when I turned 18 adult. So I was okay. The limit was small, so it's good.
Yeah.
I learned that credit is very valuable. You need to have a good credit score to get more credit or get more loan allotted to you type of thing. So I realized that you don't want to use too much, but obviously credit cards is a very, very easy way to get into debt. Credit card debt doesn't seem like much at the start, but as it keeps going, as you don't pay the balances off, it obviously does add up, and then soon it's looking at $200-$300 just in interest per month per credit card.
So did you know from 18 that you shouldn't paying interest is bad? You want to pay the full balance, or did you have a balance? Did you carry a balance?
In the beginning, it's much easier to pay off a $500 balance, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't make as much money, but 500 compared to 5,000 is much more different, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're starting to make more money. So obviously, in the beginning, I did realize credit cards, it's nice. You could use debt to purchase something, but this is the problem. I started purchasing on stupid things that you don't need, or a liability, which is not really going to do anything other than feed my soul or my internal happiness for that period, right?
Yeah.
So I was just like, whatever, and then obviously that habit starts to build. Habits, right? Like when you get your first bank account, first credit card, first car, first job, you start building habits, right? So obviously with credit card, and you're in that age of 18, 19, first year university, people want to go out, party, you're also young, you can drink as much as you want, so whatever. So you start using it, and then you always start start losing sight of what's really important, because you're in that new environment of like, okay, I gotta go to school, finish my school, I gotta make new friends, I gotta get a job. So all these things do require money, right? If you're not working, obviously you're not going to be able to. You can't go to school. You can't buy food.
Yeah.
You can't even pay for your tuition, right? OSAP gives you money a lot in the first year, but second, third, fourth year, as we all know, the funding gets less and less. So we're going to start have to use our own savings or parents or some other forms of debt, right? So obviously going back to the question of credit card, obviously I started getting it, getting the points as well. I started understanding that at a young age, getting travel points or cash back and using it to actually pay off. But my issue was carrying balances. I didn't pay it off in full.
Me too, bro.
That's
a common issue that most people have.
Issue. If it's a $500 limit, I would pay like $250, half.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it for later. And then later will come, and then it's just
And you're like, oh, it's only $5 interest.
It's only $5 interest, whatever, and then that just keeps going on a daily, monthly, yearly basis, and now $5 interest turns to $500 interest.
Yeah.
Right? Things like that. So it's just the early habits that you want to start at a young age, so that you could build the foundation, and grow from that. Right?
Because that interest you're paying, you could be investing. You know what I'm saying?
So that extra,
Whatever
even
it
if $5, let's say $10. That $10 a day, if you put it in, for example, the S&P 500.
Yeah.
7% equity every year,
Yeah.
boom, that obviously, boom, 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 goes up from there, right? So those are things that no parents or anyone ever taught. Adults have talked about it, save your money, don't use debt, but it was just a general form. It was not how or what do you need to do. It's just make sure your credit's good. Make sure you pay off your card. None of the actual deep depth stuff of like how to actually pay it off, how to
You'd be
utilize
surprised,
it.
bro. Like, honestly, like, it's like 50-50. Like, the people who've been on here before, like 50% of the people actually had that talk. Their parents told them to pay off the balance in full.
Yeah.
And then, like, people like me, like, you don't figure it out in your 20s. You figure it out in your 20s to pay it
My
off.
parents told me too, but it was just like how all Tamil Sri Lankan parents just do this and this will happen. There's no why do we need to do it, and what will happen if we do it. It's just like a command, and we just got to do it. But our generation, obviously, we need to be explained the reasoning behind it to see why it's done. But obviously, our parents weren't able to go with that.
Yeah. Ultimately, like, you don't really, like, most people don't really learn until you actually go through it, right? You have to go through it.
Yeah, you have to go through it. Again, no matter what anyone says, even if I'm telling you now, or Vin's telling your parents, or anyone's telling you, you're not going to learn until you go through it yourself. Go through the hard days, the good days, whatever it is. So all I can say is go out there, experience life, and fail, but learn from your failure. That's it.
How are you saving money growing up?
So growing up, saving money.
Oh yeah, you kind of already basically said you're blowing money and shit.
Like
when did you start saving? When did you start to think to save?
When I started saving, I would say when I started actually saving properly, not even have a plan, just like actually started saving money on a monthly basis, probably around 24, 25, around when the mind was getting more mature, school was finishing.
What specifically happened for you to have that shift?
Yeah, just like you're realizing that your credit isn't as good as it needs to be. Your income isn't where it needs to be. So until that income gap comes in, you're going to have to start saving money and living below your means. Yeah. Which was really hard for me, living below my means in the beginning. Even now,
for most people, it's hard.
Even now, sometimes, but you really need to realize, like, what I would say is, if you want something, just wait on it, think about it, don't jump into it or go right into it. Give it a day, give it a week, give it a month, and after that, you'll know if you really want it or not. If after a month, if you still want that thing, you're gonna try to find a way to get it. Yeah. If after a month you don't want it, it's out of the picture. Good thing you didn't spend any money on it. Yeah. Spend much time on it. It's out of the way, right? Yeah. So that's what I would suggest, but. Going back to saving money, it's more because I was working at a 9 to 5, so I was able to save monthly and try to use it. But then, obviously, when bigger things come up or you need an emergency fund, it wasn't enough. Now this extra cash you have on reserve needs to go towards that, and you're starting again, right? And at this point, your expenses have already gone up because you're growing up in age. Yeah. Right. So now you have a car to pay, tuition still. You still got food. Right, insurance, and obviously inflation just brings everything up. The separation, the gap between the income and expenses gets larger. So that's the way. But it's really just comes down to more of a live below your means and have your mind straight. Because especially in today's society, everything's like I want this, I want that. So easy to just caught up in everything because everyone's just marketing everything to you for your attention. So that's why, as you see, if you talk about something on your phone to your friend, next thing you know, you see an ad right there on your phone because they want your attention because that's the highest currency there is for people to use. If you get your attention, then after that, you're spending on money, whatever. You need, right? Even it's a pair of socks.
It's all like psychological and behavioral, right? Like that's what money is. It's not like knowledge.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
It's not knowledge. It all comes down to here. If you keep this straight, everything else will be straight. But keeping this straight is the hard part. That's the hard part.
Do you think you have to own the home that you live in to build wealth?
Obviously, how our parents and the generations before us who got wealthy was, you own your home, you pay the mortgage, go to work, do whatever you need to do to pay it, and you get rewarded with the appreciation. Right? Nowadays, appreciation, if you look at it, the amount they grew up, if we also exponentially grew in that rate, I have a feeling the currency is going to drop and it's going to be a shit show. So I don't want to go there, but that would be a good way to start. It's good. Obviously, appreciation is it's still going to happen, but you're not going to see 1,000% returns,
Yeah.
like how we saw in the recent few decades, right? Going back to owning a home, so you can and you cannot. So what I would suggest nowadays, I'm very strong on this, having a primary residence without an investment property is not the way to go. So if you're going to buy a property, buy one, but don't live in it yet. Because technically, if that's your first property, you're not going to buy it in cash, right? So you have debt on the property, which now could change in interest depending on your rate, whether it's fixed or variable. It's not like the U.S. where we have 25-year fixed rate. So at least
30-year fixed.
30-year fixed, 20 whatever, right?
Someone commented on my video.
Yeah.
My video is called "How much car or house can you afford?" or whatever. I'm like, you can't afford it.
Yeah.
And someone from the U.S. commented, and he was like, I locked in a rate of 2.99%, a 30-year fixed, and he bought a house for 165K. So he lived below his means. He was pre-approved for like 250. He bought it for 165. Obviously, they live a completely different, different world, right? Different world.
I mean, hey, you can still get those prices here.
Yeah.
Not Toronto, but in Canada.
Yeah.
But obviously, they're nowhere.
Yeah.
Like US, at least they have those type of towns, but the population is much more for the land mass there is, right?
Yeah.
So it's more crowded. Whereas do you have those prices
This
here?
is, by the way, he bought this in 2017.
Yeah, 2017.
Before the money printing and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
before the money print. So before that big jump.
Yeah.
You can still get good.
That same property is probably like 500K.
500K now, yeah. You can still get properties for like 200, 150, but you're looking at places where it's like nowhere, where there's no...
Like Edmonton.
Yeah, basically Edmonton, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, those places. But obviously, with those places, not much population, not much opportunities. The resources and amenities aren't also as accessible as Toronto or GTA, right?
Yeah.
So you got to look at that. So that
what do you think
also
of like
means-
investment properties in Alberta?
I was just going to get there. So that also means that if that's not there, the appreciation is also not going to be much. Going back to your Alberta question, Alberta is a really great place to get for first-time investors or if you want to get into the market because the cost of entry is very cheap there. However, appreciation is not the best place to go there. If you're looking for cash flow, that's decent. You get some nice pockets in Calgary, Edmonton, where you could get some good cash flow on a monthly basis. But if you're looking for a quick buy, hold it for 5 years and appreciate, get 100K, that's not happening.
How's the landlord-tenant board? Isn't Alberta like more like landlord-friendly than Ontario?
That's, again, I don't have personal experience with it, obviously, but that's what I've heard from people. They have landlord-friendly, probably because there's not as
They're trying to attract...
They're trying to attract more people into the country, obviously, to build the population. The only way to do that is the younger age generation because they're looking for workforce, things like that, or immigrants coming into Toronto, which is way too expensive. What are they going to do? They're going to go Alberta, Nova Scotia, anywhere, right? Other than Toronto or BC.
Yeah.
So what they're going to do, they're going to bring that in. But most of those newcomers are tenants. They're not really owners. So what they're going to do is they're going to give the power to the owners at that way. That way it'll be more of, have more owners and get more ownership of the properties, get more market cap in that real estate for that province, and then bring the tenants in. That way there's more demand, more supply, right? And then who knows, maybe later on, just like Ontario, they might change the laws. But,
later on, right?
They're just waiting for some economic growth, and then the real rules will come out.
Yeah. So. How much do you think is a reasonable amount of your take-home pay to put towards your housing costs in terms of affordability for like owning or renting?
If you're buying a house today?
If you're buying a house, yeah.
Again, it really depends on you and how, everyone has needs, right? You may have a family, you may have kids.
Yeah.
You may have parents to deal with, right? Or siblings, or even yourself, like whatever, right? So it really comes down to you. But again, it all comes back to your mind and living below your means, not getting attracted to all this superficial stuff out there, right? And just keeping a level head. So end of the day, if you could live as low as possible, that's great. Save the rest because you save that, put it into property or, put it into something where money works for you.
Yeah.
So it kind of helps that 5-year plan for a buyer, if you're a first-time home buyer and you're really starting from scratch, help you with that 5-year plan to go faster. That 5 years become 4 years or 3 years now, right? Which does help, right? They always say, you want to just live off like 40%. Live off 40% of your income. So 40%, and then the remaining 60 or whatever, or keep like 10% cash, and remaining go to 50% like investment, right? So if you can, obviously that's a big stretch. If you're making $2,000, you can't really live off $1,000.
Which is basically you can't afford the home now.
You can't afford a home, right? $2,000 is minimum wage. If you're working 40 hours, 37.5 on a minimum wage, you're making basically bringing up take home.
Right?
Net pay, you're basically bringing in about 2,000, 2,200, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you can't save $1,000 at that point because
Yeah,
Unless
but
you're
like dual, let's assume dual income. Even still, 4K. Even still,
4K. Yeah, it's nothing
not-
much, right? So
you would
it's
have to
really-
put all of that money in, even
Yeah.
to barely.
And even if you put
Yeah.
all that money in, now, like, are you miserable? Like,
Yeah,
you
you're
have
miserable.
you have
You're
no
house
quality
poor.
of life, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're basically at home between four walls. You just
Yeah.
go to work, come home, like,
And
that's not
you're
really life.
relying on the house for appreciation now. and if
Appreciation
it
now.
does-
So, which may or may never happen too,
Yeah.
right? Depending on when you bought or how the market goes. If the Canada has tanks, then there goes everything, right? So that's what it is. But hey, like, end of the day, it really comes down to you. Is it really important to you? Are you nowadays? You're seeing a lot of Gen Zs. I don't know what it is. Maybe because they can't afford it, but they don't really care to get into home ownership. They're really getting into more the tenants. That's why we're seeing a lot of tenancy laws get more favored toward the tenants, or LTBs favoring more the tenants, because the younger group or the upcoming group have the voting power. So
Okay, that's
now
why. Okay.
they obviously, to get those voting power, because housing is a big issue. No one's going to live without housing. And in the younger generation, if they can't, and someone comes in and promises or changes the laws so that tenants have more power, which they kind of do nowadays,
Yeah.
they're going to vote for that government, right? So that's
That's
just
what
all
it is.
political
Yeah, I didn't
stuff.
even think about that. Yeah,
it's all
that's
political
crazy.
stuff, man, end of the day. In my opinion, sometimes these laws are really, really dumb.
Yeah.
They're just not sensical at all. But
And that's
hey,
why you can't. So that's why you can't evict anyone here.
You can. You can.
can,
and you
it takes a
can't.
long time, yeah.
It takes a long time, and you got to make sure you have everything set straight. If you don't, or if you have illegal stuff, or you're not going by the book, you're not in favor with LTB at all.
Yeah.
You're gonna go for the tenant. So you got to make sure everything's properly documented, properly recorded, everything's up to date, and then that's good, right? So, again, coming back to that question, really what you can, but if you could save 50% of your income, spend 40 on whatever. Do whatever, 40% on whatever you want. Gucci belt, nice steak dinner, who gives a shit? Doesn't matter, right? 10%, keep cash, go to rainy day. You never know when you could lose your job, injury,
Yeah.
or anything, right?
Yeah.
Keep the cash on you. And then put the remaining 50%, if you can, obviously, into like some sort of investment fund or ETF, like S&P, for example.
Yeah.
7% per annum. That's a good investment right there. If you want to go into crypto, hold it in long term. Wait for the next halving, which just happened.
Yeah.
You
You
kinda
mean
missed
you
it.
mean you mean Bitcoin specifically?
Sorry. Yeah, crypto,
And not-
Bitcoin specifically.
Yeah.
But obviously, if Bitcoin halves, then the rest of the market is gonna boom too, right? So you choose and pick. Bitcoin is obviously higher cost of entry, just like how you buy properties.
But it's fractional, right?
It's fractional, so that's the thing, right? So you buy smaller and then you still get. So that's more of a long term thing, or go in just private lending, even private lending. If you 50,000, 100,000. Especially in these interest rate environments, you're making easy from, like, if you spend $100,000 on a private lending, you're making probably $1,000 a month on interest.
Yeah.
$1,000 a month is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Randomly coming in for
That's 12%.
that's
right.
basically 12%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're basically making that per month for 12 to 24 months, depending on the period, right?
Yeah.
That's a good way, but obviously that's a large amount of capital. But
Yeah.
nowadays, saving $100,000 isn't. It's hard, but you could get it done more faster than you would have done 5 years ago.
There's so many side hustles you could take on.
So
now.
many side hustles.
Sounds like
Again, obviously nowadays with ChatGPT and AI and everything in here, you can really automate everything and really help out on a lot of the things to help you get more income. But the time is always the biggest thing. We only have
You gotta
24
be
hours.
smart with your time.
Yeah, you only got 24 hours. If you go, 6 hours to sleep, remaining 16 hours, 8 hours to work, for example, remaining 8 hours, what are you gonna do, right?
Yeah,
You gotta
yeah.
work on your side hustle, work on your business, or do whatever you need to get by in life, right? So time is the only thing that we all have. We gotta use it wisely because everyone only has 24 hours a day, no matter what it is. Whether you're in a rich family, poor family, medium family, doesn't matter. Everyone only has 24 hours, and what you do with that time is what really matters. Whether you work 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, or you sit on your ass 10 hours a day, whatever it is, but just try to live below your means and save money so that in the long haul, when you can't work as much, the body isn't keeping up as much, there's more responsibilities, or a cold day, those savings or those investments could help you bring in, and you're not stressed about how am I going to get $50,000 to
Yeah.
pay for something on my property or like
Yeah,
something,
yeah. Yeah.
So those type of things help. So that's what I would suggest. And sorry, going back to your other question about owning real estate to move,
Yeah.
you could still build wealth with rental arbitrage. If
Yeah.
you've heard of that before.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
Talking
more
about
harder.
Airbnb?
Yeah, our Airbnb or R2R renting, a lot more common in the States. Here it's harder. There's some places you can, whereas what this means is basically you get on a lease from an owner. You're just a tenant, for example, right? You're signing a 1-year lease or 2-year lease, whatever owner, and you're now subleasing it to Airbnb, Vrbo, other tenants, right? Short-term rental, right? Those type of things. You could build wealth through that way because you're building money without ownership, but obviously the laws and the restrictions in the GTA for that is kind of hard.
Yeah.
States is really good for that. Florida especially as well, from what
Yeah.
I've heard.
Yeah.
You could do a lot of those things, and really depends on the owner as well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think the tax laws down there for this specific is much better than.
I mean,
here. I mean everything is.
Everything is better.
Florida is way better for taxes. So, but this specifically, I think
Yeah.
it's way better.
Yeah.
Because here, short-term rentals, like I think they're finessing you on the taxes here.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad, pretty bad. But that is a way you could build wealth or build money through without renting a home. So you're not actually owning it, you're not paying a mortgage.
Yeah.
The risk is less
Yeah.
because you don't have a mortgage to pay on
Yeah.
a certain day. You just have rent to pay, right? And then you sublease to Airbnb, Vrbo, short-term tenants, right? And then now you're building that money. Like just say your rent is $2,000 and you're subleasing. Like
So Vrbo's here too?
Vrbo's here, but again, GTA, right? GTA is hard to do. You do cottage countries probably.
Oh, okay,
Cottage
okay,
country,
okay. But
yeah.
Vrbo's the American thing
Mostly
that
American,
they
yeah.
started to
I think
compete with
it's-
Airbnb.
It's called HomeAways here, and then Vrbo bought it, I believe.
Got it.
Yeah, it's
So
called HomeAway
someone
or
started
something.
a competitor and a Vrbo
Competitor,
bought
like it was like Airbnb here, but
Yeah.
only cottage country, like
Yeah.
HomeAway or something. And I think Vrbo just recently bought them. So
Yeah, I just heard about Vrbo recently.
yeah,
Yeah.
Vrbo's a big thing. A lot in states, but they have it here too. Mostly cottages are listed on Vrbo.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously Airbnb there's cottages, but Vrbo,
Yeah.
if you go to more of the rural side, lakeside cottages, a lot there. So even Airbnb, right? You can put a rental arbitrage, put it in if the landlord's okay with it. You let's just say, for example, the numbers I was getting at $2,000 is your rent on the property, and you're subleasing it on Airbnb. You're making about net $3,000. You're basically profiting $1,000 a month without putting any money down. There is money down. You're gonna have to put like your furniture, cleaning, and all that stuff. But hey, you get away and find ways for that, right?
It's just an extra source of income.
It's an extra source of income. Obviously, you got to put more work in it and stuff. You got to do your research, make sure the numbers add up. You can't just rent any property, expect
Yeah.
Airbnb to kill it. Right now, Durham, like especially Pickering, I'm in Ajax, I'm seeing a lot of Airbnbs not moving, or
Yeah.
at least they got to drop the price, and the price really dropped, which is
Yeah.
going to hurt your numbers, right? So
Yeah.
obviously, in this type of markets where the interest rates are much higher and things, or it's like a lot
Is
of
that because there's more
uncertainty.
people doing it in Durham?
What I'm seeing now, so now why it's coming less, a lot of factors, but what I think, two things. Interest rates, obviously, we're getting less drops now, so the standards we're living in now, people that are on the sidelines to buy, that were renting, are now off the rental market trying to get into home ownership again. And second, I don't think a lot of people see this, is immigration is down a lot.
Yeah.
Very, very down a lot, right? So rental is not going to be much. So immigration, they dropped the numbers that we've been seeing for the past few years.
Yeah.
And they've also started deporting some people, or
Yeah, yeah.
not renewing school permits, study permits
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff.
They limited the
They
PRs
limited
too.
the PRs too, right? So that's going to in turn affect the demand and the supply. Supply is still around the same. It's actually increasing now with a lot of new construction that we saw in COVID.
Yeah.
Now they're starting to get built and completed. So the supply is slowly starting to catch up. It's still behind, but it's slowly starting to catch up, and the demand is letting less. So that's probably why you're seeing properties not moving, or the prices have to be dropped because less demand. So you can't price at a premium anymore, right? And obviously we're also in the cold season of the market.
Yeah.
Rental market is peak season, spring and summer. We just got out of the summer. So October, that's why we're probably seeing a little bit downage now, and properties on the market longer and stuff. But that's a way you can leverage and go from there if the market's really booming. If you don't have much money to get in, put a few $1,000s up, find a good landlord, a good property that hits the numbers and the landlord's okay with it. Put some furniture up, do the marketing, take some nice professional pictures. You can even take the pictures yourself, put it on Airbnb, Vrbo, whatever, short-term rental, and then boom, there you go, right? You're living somewhere.
Yeah.
You're getting on another lease to another property.
Yeah.
You're obviously going to disclose to the owner at this point
Yeah.
that you're going to be doing Airbnb on
Yeah.
it.
It's
Some
not like
owners
the early days, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
you can't just not do that because
Yeah.
that's obviously a lot of restrictions and stuff, and could end up in jail and stuff too. But
Yeah.
obviously you're going to go with approval, get them insured, and then they might ask for a per cut out of it too, which is fine because you're all still end of the day making money, right?
Yeah.
You're putting, instead of putting 20% down, $200,000 down to buy $1 million house and renting that and not even make any profit in the first few years because the interest rate's so high,
Yeah.
right? You may as well.
You could end up breaking even though, right? Like there's a chance you
With-
could break even
with
with the
rental
subleasing.
arbitration, yeah.
There's a chance you might
right?
break
It's just like
even.
Airbnb
Yeah.
vacancies, right? You don't know when it's going to be vacant.
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
There's a chance you could break even. That's the thing. That's what people do. So Airbnb, I noticed a lot of people. It's more owners are saying it's better in the summertime.
Yeah.
They make more money.
Yeah.
But they keep that extra money for the cold winter days.
Yeah.
They're not coming in as much, or they're not moving, so they have that money saved up again for a rainy day.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So
yeah,
again, always keep money in the bank. Try not to use more than what's necessary, and just save it as. And then end of the day, as you keep making the money and stuff, because markets change, right? You're not always going to be in a shitty market. It's all up and down, just like life. You're going to be in bad markets like right now, or you're going to be in crazy hot markets like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
How old were you when you learned what a credit score is?
I learned what a credit score is, what it was when I was very young, obviously.
Yeah.
It's just a score measured by how banks or lenders would approve you based off your spending habits, right? But that's just the general basis of it. Then obviously you understand that credit's divided into different sections, right? Payment history, credit age, your debt utilization, all those things, right? So now you start, so going back to the question, I learned what like general basic credit was probably like 16, 17, 18 when I opened my own bank account. But wasn't until my 20s or like early to mid 20s, I would say, where I really realized what credit is, how really important it is. Because parents would say, oh, credit's very important, driver license is very important, make sure you have those two. But they want to explain what happens if you mess it up, right?
Yeah.
If you mess it up, you're really just never able to get any sort of funding, right? You're not going to be able to help with any sort of debt leverage, so buying a property, any sort of line of credits for home renovations, anything.
You're paying high interest rates.
You're paying high, and even if you do, you're paying high interest rates, which may not even make sense numbers wise, because now you got to pay extra on the interest, right? Car loan example.
Yeah.
Car lender is gonna give you less interest when your credit score is like 700, 800, whereas it's the 500, 600, you may not even get a loan, or it'll be higher interest, or loan value will be less, right? So I started learning this as I financed my first car. I financed my first car, put it in my own name, got a loan and everything. I was like, okay, cool. So now you know how much money you're getting. It's like my Acura, right? So it's like TSX, whatever, like $20,000 auto loan or something like that. And then you realize, okay, cool, you got a loan. Okay.
How long was the term?
The term was 6 years, 6 year
finance. Yeah. Did they give you an option to like extend the term?
Not extend, but you could obviously pay off the loan earlier, right?
Oh, it's an open loan.
It's open loan, yeah.
Oh, okay,
it's open loans, which I did. I ended up paying it on LOC, and then
paid off earlier. You pay less interest, kind of thing.
I used LOC to pay it off.
Yeah.
Because the interest on a line of credit is much lower than, well, it depends on what you get approved for, but lower than actual auto loan. Yeah. So I used that, and I was just paying the line of credit off after, right? Type of thing. So that's another way as well. Like you can use other debt to pay for other higher interest debt to make your interest payment less, which in turn you are saving some money. Even if it's $100, $200 a month, that still adds up. $200 a month is $2,500 a year.
Yeah.
That's like a new iPhone right there.
Yeah.
Obviously you don't want to spend on that, but there you go, right?
Yeah.
Like, so that's how it is. So so credit's very important. I learned what it is really and what it does, what it could do for you in my early to mid 20s, and I started attacking it, trying to get my credit score better, try to move up from 600 to 700 to 800 eventually, right?
Yeah.
So
what's a good credit score?
Good credit score, if you want, like if borderline minimum 680, you want to get at least above that to get decent rates, decent lenders. Whatever. If you're in the 700s, you're basically going to be approved for almost everything. Maybe here and there you might not. Your interest rates might be a little bit higher. 800, obviously, you're like the best here. You're AAA. They're going to give you everything. You're good to go, right? If you're below 650 to 680 is a decent number. It's workable. You could easily get into the 700 from that, right? Or you could easily go into the 500s from that too. So it really depends on you, but if you're looking at lending ratios, I think 680 to 700 plus is a good number. If you're looking at below 600, then you really got to work on it, and you have to find some sort of ways, or just try to figure it out. Because two things you need in Canada: driver license and credit. With those two things, you can't really sustain too long.
Below a certain number, basically, they don't trust you with money. So what's the single piece of information that you learned that's impacted you most financially?
Leveraging debt. This is something I learned pretty late. I only learned it 4 or 5 years ago. 5 years ago? 6 years ago, actually, now? Yeah, I was 30. 2025 is done. Yeah, so basically, right before COVID, like 2019 time, 2018 time.
Yeah, where did you learn it? How did you learn it?
So obviously watching YouTube videos, like see how people like Grant Cardone or people like, who was I watching in those days? But like, people that are just out here talking about stuff and educating you, because this type of stuff, no one told you before.
Yeah.
Even if you're like, our parents didn't even know this properly. Like the actual way of it, most of our parents.
Yeah.
Some parents.
Like why you're using leverage.
Why using? Because people say don't use debt.
Yeah.
That's a wrong term. You need to use debt.
Yeah.
Especially in today's society where you need debt in order to buy more valued properties, more valued assets, right?
Yeah.
You can't
As long
really-
as the numbers make sense.
as long as the
course,
numbers
right?
make sense, right?
Like, you know?
Don't get me wrong and just get debt and just pay whatever. As long as the numbers make sense, you're going to use debt. You need debt.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is leveraging it properly, because even the countries, they use debt to purchase things, and then they use the cash flow off off the asset to pay back the debt.
Yeah.
So you're technically not using your own money. You're using someone else's money or a loan,
Yeah.
in this case, to buy something.
Yeah.
You're probably putting a small down payment or something on it.
Yeah.
But the rest of the money, like for example, a house. You're buying a house, you're paying 20%, let's say 20%, remaining 80% a mortgage through a loan or whatever, right?
Yeah.
If you're living there, this is why I'm going back to my primary residence. Now you are paying that mortgage, the interest, right? There's nothing coming out unless you house hack and rent the basement or whatever, you get some rental income. But now if you're just doing an investment property, you're now using that 80% you just took, and in decent markets when the rents and mortgages are aligned, obviously that tenant is now paying off your mortgage and your interest. So you're not paying anything monthly,
Yeah.
right? Your only money invested in here is the down payment, and you're building the equity, and someone else is paying the debt interest for you.
Yeah.
That's another way. Or another way, business owners, restaurant owners, or any business. Like just restaurants easy. You want to open up a restaurant. You want to buy a restaurant that's on sale. Let's say $500K. That's pretty stretched. Let's say $250. $250K. You have $100,000 down. Remaining, you need to get a loan, right? So you put $100,000 down cash, and the remaining, you on closing, whatever, you have to find some sort of financing, whether it's a loan, business loan, line of credit, whatever, right? You're paying interest on that. But you've spent that $100,000 is already in the business. $150 is now come from the debt.
And you're getting
putting
cash
into
flow.
the business.
You're buying
You're
cash
making
flow.
the sales, and that sales is now paying for your debt.
Yeah.
And you're basically bringing the debt down, but through the sales, right? That's how people leverage debt. Because as a restaurant owner, you're not gonna, not restaurant owner, as a new person going into the business, you're not gonna have $250K ready to go to jump in like that. You'll have a certain percentage of it, then you got to find financing, right? That's what I mean by leveraging your debt. Not going and buying an iPhone on your credit card and paying that off monthly. That's not leveraging your debt. Leveraging your debt is using debt to buy an asset, and using that asset to pay for your debt is what leveraging your debt really is. And you need to, that's all the rich people do. Grant Cardone, a big example, he's into multifamilies and stuff like that. He buys one, and then he uses debt to purchase another one. That's how all these big guys do it. Obviously, since their net worth is much more, they have access to more debt, millions and billions of dollars, right? The government,
They crowdsource
for example,
it too.
Crowdsource it,
Yeah.
right? Or OPM, other people's
Yeah,
money
yeah.
too, right? The government, for example, same thing. They're in debt, trillions of dollars of debt. How is that possible? Because they've got a lot of debt from other countries, businesses to, pay for our services. And then in turn, they get taxes. I don't even know how to go to taxes because we all know that shit is like crazy.
Yeah.
It goes, whatever they do with our taxes, God knows. But
Yeah.
basically, that's what everyone does. And that's
Yeah.
one thing I didn't learn until like my mid-20s. I was like, oh, so this is how the rich people buy like millions of dollars worth of assets, $1 billion of assets. Who has $1 billion of cash sitting out there? Unless you're from Dubai and you're part of, the royal family or whatever.
Yeah.
No one really has money like that. But how are these, like Elon Musk, how is he able to get these rockets and stuff? He gets funding, right? Or things like that, or debt, right? And then, investor money comes in, blah, blah, blah. It's a different ball game, but around the same principle.
all leverage,
leveraging
yeah.
debt, right? You're leveraging debt, and you're using the thing you bought with that debt to pay back the debt. So not in your own money, where you go buy an iPhone, and
Or
now
like a car loan.
or a
Unless
car
you're
loan.
putting it on Turo, obviously.
Unless you're putting on Turo, but yeah,
that's
Turo
different,
that
that's
too. But let's just say
different.
iPhone, because iPhone, well, phone you can still make money from, but let's just say you're buying a phone for the hell of it, right? And you're gonna buy it, put $2,000 iPhone 16 Pro Max
Yeah.
on your card.
Yeah.
Now who's paying the interest? You
Yeah.
are. Again, only leverage debt if it makes sense and if your numbers add up, because this is how people also get bankrupt. They take on too much debt. They didn't do their numbers right, or some things changed in their plan and they didn't account for, and now the asset that they were trying to get the debt for is not paying enough money, and they cannot pay the debt, which entirely over the years, over the months, the debt just keeps adding up, where it's just too much and you have to file for bankruptcy.
Yo, like I saw this reel. I don't know if you've seen it on Instagram. There's this like car salesman guy.
Yeah.
He recorded this call he had with some guy who's trying to get out of he's trying to sell his Ferrari, okay?
Yeah.
He's underwater on the Ferrari. Somehow like he ended up underwater, like he owes 300 on the Ferrari or something.
Okay.
And the market value is 244 cuz he used to make 30 bands a month, but now he's only making 10 or some shit.
Income changed.
Yeah.
See,
Income
that's living
changed.
below your means. Because going side topic, but
Yeah.
obviously we're all going to have increases in salary as we grow in age.
Yeah.
We're also going to get reductions in salary, whether we lose our
Yeah.
job or something happens or
Yeah.
we get fired or we go into going from 9 to 5 life into your own business type of thing or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that's why if you're making those years where you make crazy money, a lot of people, I even did this myself, start increasing your expenses unnecessarily.
It's called lifestyle creep or
Lifestyle
some shit,
upgrade,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But realistically, yeah, you made a salary jump.
Yeah.
But that isn't going to be staying there forever.
Yeah.
You could lose your job like that. You
Yeah.
could go in injury.
Yeah.
You could somehow lose that passion and want to go to something else. So that's why you shouldn't come back to living below your means. Just because you got a $10,000 raise per year doesn't mean you go and now finance a nice car, right? You
Yeah.
lose that $10,000 to buy an asset, which is all what the rich people do. Buy an asset, use that asset to pay for the liabilities, which is the
Exactly,
cars, the
yeah.
phones, the bags, the clothes, whatever, right? The
Yeah.
mansions, the properties, right? That's the way to go.
Yeah.
This is what I learned in like my early to mid 20s. And it took me a few years to grasp around because I was like, what do you mean? I was told not to use debt. Like, why would you use debt? Then I really understood, okay, you're using like a loan to pay for an asset,
That
which
will
is in
cash
turn
flow.
monthly cash flow,
Yeah.
which comes in your pocket, whether you pay the loan with your own money or the thing money. End of the day, you're getting an extra source of income,
Yeah.
which is what is much needed nowadays, where households are before dad goes to work, mom stays home, take care of the kids. Nowadays, both parents have to go to work. I don't know, maybe have 2-3 jobs each, right?
Yeah.
So you need to have other sources of income, and this is just going to get worse because as inflation goes up, cost of living is going to go up, expenses are going to go up, income is not going to keep up. So you have to find different sources. But the problem is you only have 24 hours a day. So you can't work 3, 4, 5 jobs. You can't do that.
You're gonna
And
hit your
even if
life.
you do,
Yeah.
you can only do it for a set amount of time and you're going to burn out, you're going to feel miserable, and you're going to want to kill yourself.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's why you need to let your money work for you. And getting that money first is the hard part. Once you get it, start using other means, research ways, go on podcasts, look at your favorite influencers that obviously the smart ones,
Yeah.
or other financial gurus and things like that. They have their experience and they, talking, preaching stuff, and then build your extra sides of income through those assets because you're only going to have 1 or 2 hustles. And that's only
Yeah.
going to be lasting probably till you're 40.
Yeah.
After that, you're going to want to settle to just one hustle.
Yeah.
Take care of the family, right?
Yeah.
So now you're going to have
You wanna be smart with your
You got to
time.
be smart with your time because money comes and goes. Everything comes and goes, but time, once it's gone, never ever comes back. Time is the only finite resource we have. That's why it's so valuable. As you see, when people get older, they regret their life a lot because they didn't do what they wanted to do properly with their time. And once it's gone, it can't come back. Again, money comes and goes. If you lose 100K, yes, it's very sad, very depressing, but 100%, 120%, you'll make that money back. The
Yeah.
time you spent on that is what's never going to be taken back, right? So that's why a lot of people, that's why attention is such a high currency.
Yeah.
Because people see on these things, like they're on social media, the companies are trying to buy your attention, right? Because you're basically spending time into their platform, and then they're using the time you're giving them to sell you things based off what your internal needs want, right? Or wants, not needs, wants,
Yeah.
right? And then that's really what it is. And then when you look back, the time's gone. You've just been scrolling your phone. You just bought a bunch of things, and now you have no assets or anything to pay for. This is exactly what many of us, including myself, have done. But that's the thing. You need to stop and realize when this is getting too much, and you guys just got to put your foot down. Like, no one's going to do it for you. You got to do it yourself.
No one's gonna save you.
No one's going to save you. They could give you advice. They could tell you some certain things, some tips and pointers, but end of the day, no one's going to do it for you. You need to do it yourself and just be consistent with it.
Do you have a budget?
Budget. When you say budget, you got to know on what, right? So I do have a monthly budget, obviously, because I only make X amount of money. And
When did you implement the budget? All the way.
I implemented the budget. I implemented budget a long time ago. But obviously, if this isn't right, you're gonna go over your budget
Yeah.
without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
Right. So
When did you start following it? I guess.
when I started following, honestly, like since I got married, that was way out of the budget too. So honestly, I didn't even follow that. But like on a monthly thing type of thing, I would say budgeting. I probably started 5 years ago.
Yeah.
When the income started to be more like consistent, started to know what I was slowly making monthly. And a good way, side note, start tracking your expenses and your income. That's the only way. Like
See where every dollar goes.
see where every dollar goes. Try to reduce your cash expenses because you don't really know what cash, unless you have like a set amount of cash per month, like $100, $500 a month. You blow it on whatever you need to, obviously something responsible or something needed, and then that cash $500, you'll know what it's gone to cash or miscellaneous expenses. So now, what I do personally, I just go through, I'll use all my. It's not good, obviously, if you're talking about other stuff, but have a paper trail, right? Right? Some people don't like paper trail because you're in the government and this whole next conspiracy stuff, but we can get to another day. But have a paper trail because it's good for you. You know how much you're spending, where it's going to. That's very important. I know exactly how much I'm spending on gas. Food, a little bit off, on and off, because I'm a foodie. But yeah, I know exactly how much food and everything goes for, right? So I tracked that. It took me a few years of data to track. I track it on a monthly basis on my phone. And at the end of the year, I just put it on a spreadsheet, have a nice graph to see which months I'm spending more. Summer months, Christmas months. Right? And you have a graph. It shows like where. So I'm like, okay, for these months, how am I going to budget or what could I do to make more income? Right? So that's what I would do. So now once you found out your spending plan or how much you're spending, now you know how to budget or how to save. Because you can't really budget, let's be honest, without knowing how much you're spending. If you're just saying, oh, I just spend $1,000 a month, and you have no tracking or no proof to do it, how do you know? Because subconsciously, we're out here tapping mentality, everything.
You don't feel pain.
You don't feel pain. Like a coffee, $2 coffee every day for 30 days is like, what, $60, right? That's $60 on coffee, but you just, in your head, oh yeah, I'm going to probably spend 20 in the month, right? The other 40.
But if you're doing the same thing in cash, you'll feel differently though. But you're not. But we don't use cash.
But we don't use cash anymore too. But again, if you're doing it in cash too, you won't even know it. You can't even, like, you won't know. Whereas if you're tapping on your phone, it's easy to tap, it's easy to get track of. Essentially, you basically just want a budget to know how much you're spending. Because at the end of the day, no matter what you're going to do, yeah, you can live below your means, but you're not going to get rid of certain things. Certain things hold value to certain
You got to make more money.
You got to make more money. And that's, honestly, this is a conversation I have with my wife all the time. She's like, we got to save, we got to save, we got to save. I'm like, yeah, you could save, but it's not like how our parents were before. We could save and everything adds up. Now, I don't know what it is. So maybe it's a guy mentality. Rather than save on the small things like a coffee or a good meal, make more money, right? I'm not saying go steak meal. Like, if you want to go buy your pizza or you want to buy a nice burger for something like that, go for it. You don't need to be living off like fried fish and chips at home. Like, go do it, but you just want to make sure that you're not, going overboard, right? You got to go how much you're spending, what makes you happy. Because at the end of the day, without happiness, you're not going to do anything. Like a lot of people, they have everything, but up here, they're not happy.
Exactly. Have you heard of a guy named Ramit Sethi? He's like this. He's this finance guy in.
I think I heard him before.
Yeah, he wrote a book called "I'll Teach You to Be Rich."
Okay.
Right. So he basically talks about spend money on the things that you love. And then save like crazy on the things that you don't love. There's probably like little things that you don't really love, right? That you spend money on. That's what you cut out. But like if you're a foodie, obviously go and eat out. Food, right?
And this is what I was talking about before, right?
But it's all about awareness.
It's about awareness. Like who are you? You got to first, honestly, if you're young, you got to sit down, sit in front of the mirror and ask, who are you? What do you like? What do you don't like?
Like if you can live without coffee, you don't need to get the coffee, right? But if coffee's like you love coffee, then get coffee.
Then you have to get coffee. Some people, they need coffee to work.
At
the end of the day, without proper input, you're not going to result proper output. Right? So whatever you're inputting, just make sure it's not overboard and overstimulating
You don't
yourself.
need to get the Starbucks Frappuccino.
You don't need the Starbucks Frappuccino. Just stick to a Tim Hortons, right? Whatever. Or you make your own. Whatever. Make your own. Buy those brewers. Make your own if you have extra 5-10 minutes in your time of the day, right? Obviously, Tim Hortons coffee is a little bit more tastier, but hey, that's the way to go. Maybe half the times make it, other times do it, right? So you got to find out first who you are, what makes you happy, what doesn't make you happy, and then build a budget and lifestyle around that. Once you know that, obviously you're going to start liking more things, not liking things. That's when you add and subtract. So if now you suddenly don't want to go out to eat, you just like making food at home, but you like to, I don't know, go watch the Raptors game every month, right? You can make that money. Now you're putting away something. Obviously, it's better to save that money. But if it means the world to you that you need to watch, for example,
obviously don't go into debt too.
Don't go into debt. But obviously, that $500 you're spending on a month extra on the bougie food, you go to a Raptors game a month, right? That $500 that gives you one nice 100 level ticket right there. Boom, you get to see the Raptors every month, right? That makes you happy, right? That's what I'm saying. So as you get older, you realize like, you don't want this, but you want that, right? Things that you used to like, you don't like anymore. Now you like new things, right? Things like that. So you got to really know who you are and just self-evaluate. Evaluate yourself. End of the year, see how you did at the end of the year. This is something I do. Look how you did at the end of the year, see how it is. I actually start my year earlier, right after summer. that cold winter arc time after September, October, November, December time.
Yeah.
So you could prepare, because a lot of people, what they do wrong is they finish the year,
Yeah.
December, they're like, okay, new year, new me, January, New Year's resolution. They have no plan. They're just in that hype moment of, okay, new year, let's go. 2-3 weeks and you're done. You're not doing anything.
Yeah.
So that's why you want to start once summer's done, in my opinion, because summertime is lit, everything's going on, right? So once summer's done, winter arc starts where no one really out here trying to chill. The weather is also colder. You don't want to go anywhere. Now you start self-evaluating, because you're not going to self-evaluate yourself in one day, a week. Sometimes it could take a month, right?
Yeah.
You want to know what your weaknesses are, what your strengths, where you can work on, what your goals, right? So you start building those, like figuring out what those goals are, and start building plans for January, so that when January comes, you're not thinking about what I need to do. You already know what I need to do, and you're just going straight to it, right?
Yeah.
That's a good way. That's something I would suggest to many of you to do that, rather than waiting for January. Start October, November, build a plan, know what you want for the next year, and just go start January 1st or January 2nd, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right? That's a good way. So again, budgeting situation, budget to your needs, but don't go overboard with it. Spend what you need to spend on your needs. A little bit wants here and there, because that is life. Life is, again, end of the day, life is life. You're not going to take your money with you. You're not going to take your asset with you. You're not going to take your debts with you. You're just going to bring your experiences and everything you've learned, right? So whatever that is in your life, where your values are, do that, but don't go into debt doing it.
Yeah.
Make sure you have a proper budget. And every year or every month, review that budget and make sure you're actually hitting it. There's a lot of ways on bank accounts now, banks that tell you how much you're spending on. You can also make your own budgeting and spreadsheets,
Like Excel or
like
whatever,
Excel, make a graph, show at the end of the year which month, like what I do.
Yeah, I just use Excel, bro.
I put everything on my phone in a note for each month. What was on the credit card, that credit card, some cash, obviously e-transfer, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then month, done. September, October, done. Now just December comes around. Now I know for the full year how much I'm spending. Make a graph, make a chart. Now I know how to use it for the previous year. So for 2025 now, obviously 2024 for me was a little bit offset because I got married.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit offset, but I would go to 2023 and see, what I'm now, like, now you have a life.
Yeah.
So you got to budget for that.
Yeah.
Right? So you got to maybe take it off on social life or like something else or like, sports gambling or whatever, right?
You gotta make sacrifices.
You gotta make sacrifices, right? You gotta make sacrifices because that's what it is. So at the end of the day, that's my 2 cents on budgeting. Just everyone needs to budget and just make sure you're honest to your budget and just stay that way.
What would you say is your biggest money mistake?
Basically, biggest financial mistake. What would I do? Yeah, honestly, it was just going overboard and just spending more than what I was making and doing it for a long period of time because obviously 1 year is whatever, but when you start doing 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, it compounds. Now you're behind not 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, right? So, and it is hard because I was also behind because I wasn't making as money because I was in school.
Yeah.
Right? I was trying to learn
Same here, bro.
the school system.
Yeah.
Right? Which is good and bad depending on what you want to do. So obviously you could only do so much because you can't, end of the day, you can't go to class, then go do part-time job and then expect to study and like pass your exams. If you're that person, good for you. You're a genius. But that was not me. That was not me. I try to balance it as much as I can. My work life, my school life, my social life, my sports life, everything. But it just gets too hectic, right? So that's probably what I did. I probably just what I say, like went all over the place and not have like I like a lot of things. I like a lot of different things.
I have a lot of interest.
But it does get very expensive, right? A lot of interest, especially when you're younger.
Yeah.
You're out here exploring the world, especially in uni. Like you're in high school, whatever, you've been with your parents. Now you come to uni, you have so much freedom, so much experiences, so much things to do. So you want to just be out here and experience everything, right?
Yeah.
You also are an adult now. You make your own money now. You're not living with parents, living off parents' money anymore, right? So now, obviously, that comes back to the responsibility thing. I was just blowing on things like that I don't need, like eating food every single day when I wasn't even like working as much. I was working part-time, right? Buying food out every day or going out every day.
Imagine we knew about investing back then.
Yeah. That's the thing.
That's why when I meet like 22-year-olds and 23-year-olds, I'm like, yo, you can be a millionaire at 30 years old. Like you just need to not fuck it up. You know what I mean? Like you have so much time. You have the knowledge available to you. Just don't be an idiot with your money. You know what I'm saying?
And don't be an idiot is very hard. It's very easy to be an idiot.
Because everyone else around you is an idiot. Because
everyone around is an
society is set up to make you spend money.
Make you that way. And you're also at an age where you're learning about yourself.
Yeah.
You don't know who you are, what you like.
Yeah.
So you're going to make stupid decisions. Yeah. It's like, it's inevitable at that point, right? Yeah. But you got to make sure you don't make too many stupid decisions. You make just enough to get by and give you those lessons, but also not to burn yourself and be behind forever, right?
Yeah.
So I think my biggest money mistake was probably just spending too much on my credit card and just using it more than it needs to be. When my income was less than my expenses. And then obviously to catch up, like you got to work every day. You got to work every day. Even now I work every day.
Yeah.
Not because I'm catching up with debt, but to catch up with the future, right? Because inflation is catching up. Like we got to get
Bro,
into...
I can relate, bro. I can relate.
So much, right? You got to get into home ownership. Then you want to buy other property. Then you get married. Then you have kids. Now that stuff. And then during all this, the expenses of things is just rising without even knowing it, right?
Yeah.
Like, for example, Junior Chicken... 7 years ago, was $1.69. Now it's $3.29.
Yeah.
You know, what the hell for a Junior Chicken? You know, McDonald's is like
should have invested in McDonald's stock, eh?
yeah, or Nvidia. But yeah, like that was probably my biggest money move. Luckily, good and bad, I didn't get too into debt to be too into a hole. I know a lot of people out here that get like killed over debt, like get shot up and stuff. Like luckily I'm not there.
Yeah.
For me it was just credit cards and using debt unnecessarily, not leveraging the debt properly for assets, using it for stupid things, right? But yeah, that's probably what I would say. And I learned from it. I still do it here and there sometimes because obviously you want to do stuff, right? Like you want to have a wedding, for example, right? You're gonna use debt to think. That's a common thing, right? You want to do a big wedding. I'm a big wedding person.
Yeah. Wedding person
Yeah.
too.
So then you want to do like those type of things, right? You only do it once, hopefully once, right?
Yeah.
You want to do it once. So what's the point of you working all the time? Spend it, but don't go kill yourself over it. Obviously, you'll make the money back eventually, but those moments is gonna stay eternal with you. Like again, spending with time with you guys, going to the batch, it's just memories that I'm going to be cherishing for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
On the finance side, I'm kind of annoyed that so much payoff.
Yeah.
So money's just all over the place, moving around. But end of the day, when I die...
But you have a plan to pay it off. You had a plan before. Yeah.
I already had a plan before. Whether I'm using debt, I'm not leveraging the debt for asset.
Yeah.
I'm leveraging the debt for like...
You're spending on what you love,
What
right?
I love. What I love, what brings me value. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to die with having no memories. I want to die with like experiences. And what they say is when you die... your whole life flashes before your eyes, right? This could be happening right now.
Yeah.
It's just another topic. But yeah, your life flashes before your eyes. So at that moment, I don't want to be a boring life to flash by, right? I want to have things that made me happy, things that fulfill me, right? So that my soul can be fulfilled. And move on and transcend to another dimension, right? That's really what it is, end of the day. Because money is just a tool, like I said in the beginning. Tool to bring you up or down. How you use it is up to you. If you use it good, it helps you. If you use it bad, it kills you.
What would you say is your biggest money win?
Biggest money win probably isn't from me making the money. Obviously, I made some good deals that I'm very happy about as well and like good money. But what I would say is one big money win happened recently in COVID time was obviously they were giving a lot of grants and loans, right? So this time I was just like, okay, what could we use to take advantage of the situation, right? So I was just talking to my girl at the time, and I was like, "We gotta start a business, right? We gotta start a business and stuff and things like that." So we just opened up a basket company business, right? Registered it on there, and then luckily, as per my plan, the grants started coming out, loans started coming out, right? So now you have a business. You can't do this without a business, first of all. So you need to have a business to get these loans, unless you're talking about CERB. CERB's a different story.
That's a different story, yeah.
But business loans, grants, they were giving this free money out. This is from the printing, all the bullshit, right? So it's like, okay, we got to find a way to use this, right? So we just opened up a business, registered on thing. It wasn't even, like, you don't even need to register the businesses that make below $30,000 annual. We were making $30,000, but I registered anyways, just to keep up. Then I applied.
How did you find out about the grants?
I just started hearing, like, the grants came after. I heard of the $60,000 loan first, which I initially didn't get approved for, but because didn't have enough time. But then we had a few months of operating business and things like that. Luckily, things worked out, and we got grants. Like,
you have to show, like, a business plan and all that shit, or no?
You have to show a business plan? Nothing. You just had to show, I think just a couple months bank statements of things.
Oh, so a couple months of bank statements showing that you're producing revenue?
Okay, got it. Just revenue. You don't need to be, you don't need to
be profitable.
You just have to show expenses and revenues. And just giving the money. So like, okay, all right.
As long as it's a business that you're actually doing.
As long as it's a business. It was just a basket business. Like people make gift baskets. I just put it on in incorporation and just basically registered it with the government so they know. And now I get these grants, these loans, which I use to buy property. Right? Use as a down payment or help for the wedding type of things, right? Or crypto, those type of things, right? So I'd say that would be my biggest win by trying to take advantage of the the situation that was going on,
Yeah.
and just being first, like moving first.
Yeah.
Thankfully, my girl was down to do the basket stuff. I was
Yeah.
just the guy doing the behind the scenes work.
Yeah.
And it worked out. We
Yeah.
got some grants and loans, and today use that loan, or grants free, but use the loan to buy property, use the tenant's rent
Yeah.
to pay off the debt.
Yeah.
Right?
Sick,
I'm not
sick.
banking anything right now.
Yeah.
Once the loan's paid off in a couple of years,
Yeah.
now that pocket's mine.
Yeah.
Right? So that's how you leverage debt. That's what I would say is a good win for me. Not by my own self, like actually making money, but
Yeah.
using what's around at that time
Yeah.
and leveraging it to make that money.
What would you say is the best investment vehicle, in your opinion?
Depends how much money, first of all.
Yeah.
Right? If you're talking about just 100,000, like regular consumer
Yeah.
stuff, not big businesses, $1 million stuff.
Yeah.
Talking about $50,000 to $100,000, I would suggest right now private lending.
Mm-hmm.
Private lending is really good to give money to.
Yeah.
Obviously, you got to know the details. You just can't go private lending on properties that don't have any equity.
Yeah.
Right? So you need to make sure private lending, because that's an easy, because if you let's just say put $100,000 down, right, on a property, you're not going to be making anything really on that. Right? But private lending, there are some risks, but you're actually making some money in interest per month
Yeah.
without really doing much work, right? There's risks to it, but if you
There's
know
risk
how
to
to
every
there's risk
investment.
to everything.
There's no
There's risk
investment that doesn't have a risk.
There's risk to even working. There's risk to even taking the bus. You could get
Risk to
killed any
walking
day.
outside, yeah,
There's risk to
exactly.
even taking the car. Like
Yeah,
anything's a risk. Everything's a
Yeah.
risk, right? So obviously
You have to understand the risk, invest in what you understand, right?
and know how to mitigate those risks if it ever happens, right?
Yeah.
So that's what it is. So right now, I would say private lending, because interest rates are also high. You're
Yeah.
making a lot of money to yield, right? But overall, if you want just an easy, consistent, like through the years, that's been consistent, I would just say put it in the S&P 500, safe, keep it as a money to do long-term investing, not short-term. Obviously year by year it's different, but most years you're positive, right? So
Yeah.
that's consistently over a long period of time. I feel like that's the best, safest way to go.
And the barrier to entry is just knowledge.
Yes, the barrier
There's
to
no
entry
barrier
is
to entry,
there's
really.
you could do $5, you could
Yeah.
do $200,000, doesn't matter.
Whatever.
Right? The cost of entry is much easier.
Because most people probably think stock. Well, that's the thing, right? Most people think stock market. I'm gonna lose all my money automatically, right? They don't understand that. It's
And you
literally-
can, and you can, and you can.
Not in the S&P 500.
Not S&P 500, not S&P 500, but you
in
can,
individual stock, yes.
individual stock, options, things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
You can lose enough money,
Yeah.
but S&P,
But a lot of people miss out on 8 to 10% a year for the rest of their life
because they
think
want the big win.
Yeah,
They want
and
that big win.
And the person that they know went for the big win and they struck out, right?
They struck out.
And then now everyone around them is scared
Scared. Yeah.
forever, right?
Yeah. So that's why you always you don't want to go with the hype. You want to go with what's safe.
Yeah.
You obviously want to do some hype plays too. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong. Obviously
yeah.
do some hype plays too.
Yeah.
Because
But 8
obviously,
to 10% compounded,
Yeah.
depending on how much money you're putting in,
Yeah.
like that shit adds up,
yeah,
right?
like out of 100K, what I would
Worst
say
case
is
scenario, like if you do it consistently, by retirement time you have $1 million. Like if you without even you working your ass off, like you enjoy your life, whatever. Say you don't want to buy a house or whatever, like in your 50s you can have $1 million tax free money.
and that's how our boomers and our parents' generation
Yeah.
did that.
Yeah.
They either bought property,
Yeah,
paid their mortgage every month,
and paid off the house.
and paid off the house.
Yeah.
Appreciation rose, and now you're banking. Now you're able to refinance $200,000, $300,000,
Yeah.
and do whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or you would go ahead and just basically invest over time. The slow wins the race type of thing. And time is on your side, right? Like if you use time on your side, you won't even know the money's coming. Because now when we work,
And you don't have to invest all your money. You can invest 10% of.
Yeah, and it's just happening behind the scenes while you
Yeah.
sleep. Like
Yeah.
you don't even need to worry. Like you need to check up on it, but you don't
Yeah.
need to worry about it, right? And it's just a safe
The
investment.
work is like with S&P 500. The work is done for you. They pick the best companies. They
pick the best companies,
Like
yeah.
there's no you're not gambling. right?
Exactly. You're not gambling. Yeah.
You have exposure to Nvidia. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
when it goes up. You know what I mean?
Nvidia,
You
yeah,
have the
yeah.
exposure, right?
Yeah. So you have the exposure. You don't miss out on these big jumps like Nvidia did. But yeah, basically that's a safe over. I think last 40 years, 50 years. It's just been going up.
10%,
10%
every year.
Every year.
Right.
there you
Some
go,
years is 30.
10%.
Some years is like 18. Some years
is
negative.
Some
But
years
like
negative. But I think I saw a video recently. The last 30 years, only 4 years was negative or something, or 4 or something like that.
yeah, it's 4 years.
4
Yeah,
years
yeah,
are negative
yeah.
in the
I did.
last
I
30
made like a
years.
graphic. Yeah. I made a graphic on Wealth
Yeah.
Ethos, like
Yeah.
on the Instagram page.
Yeah.
Like it's like I think it's like I think it was like 2022, COVID,
Yeah.
and then like 07, 08.
07, 08, yeah. And then like 99 or something.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
The 2000 .com
Yeah,
bubble.
that's
yeah.
crazy. So
Yeah.
in the last 30 years, You've only been losing money 4 out of those 30 years.
Yeah, and then if you put your money in the bank and you got 2% interest, like you're missing out on 8% a year.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
and you're paying taxes on the 2% interest.
And you know what's crazy about the
Yeah.
2%? Yeah, taxes.
You're paying taxes on the 2%.
And the bank is using your money to just do what I just said.
To make 10%.
To just do what I just said, the bank is using your money to do what I just said.
Yeah.
Whereas you could have just used that money instead of putting it in the bank and put it in if you just knew what you're doing and you just were confident enough to do it.
Yeah, it's just people are like too lazy to learn, right? You're learning to do your job. You're learning in school, right? That doesn't pay you, like that barely pays you anything.
You know
right?
what it is?
This could
because
pay
of
you for
that?
the rest of your life.
The instant gratification society we're in now.
Yeah.
Everyone wants gratification like this or results like this. I was also a victim of that too.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I've been working for 6 months like this. What the hell's going on? But
Yeah.
realize 6 months is nothing. It could take 6 years. It could take 10 years. You just got to keep going. You got to be consistent and you just can't give up.
Yeah.
Those are the dedication and consistency are the two biggest things you need in your life in any sort of aspect.
Yeah.
Whether it's work, finances, marriage, friendships, dedication or commitment, consistency. Those two things is universal in all areas of life.
Yeah. How much do you save or invest per month?
So right now, right now my status has changed, so I'm still all over the place. But before I got married and the situation changes, what I was trying to do, I was trying to save, obviously for the wedding at this point, or properties. But
How much percent?
Percent, it was more of a dollar figure
Dollar
for me,
figure? Yeah.
because it was percent is like
It fluctuates?
It fluctuates, right? Because dollar figure, if you do a dollar figure, it's like okay, $500, $1,000. For me, it was $1,000.
Yeah.
Right, every month type of thing for a few years. And then obviously that 1,000 you might have to use it.
That's because your monthly income is changing, right?
It's changing, right?
Yeah.
And then after like I got into full-time real estate, now I don't have a full-time income.
Yeah.
Now I'm basically where real estate you just get paid for when you close.
Yeah.
Which you can make deal every month or every week and go drought for 5 months.
Yeah.
Right. So that's when you really start getting tested about your budgeting. When you don't have that monthly money coming in and you're just working on like commission or residuals or whatever, like anything, right?
Yeah.
That's when you start like really trying to see annual basis how much you spend rather than a monthly basis. Well, monthly too, but monthly you can't. Your income's not always going to keep up.
Yeah.
On an annual rate is what you got to look at.
Yeah.
Look things how much is annually.
Yeah.
How much is your car payment annually? Your phone payment, your mortgage, your things. How much you're spending. But you want to know on an annual basis so you know how much of that 60,000 is going towards what, right? So for me, when I was working day to job, I was okay. I'm able to save like it's like $500,000 there a month. Some months a little bit off because things happen and things like that. Yeah. But I try to save it in there, put it into like crypto or stocks or something. Yeah. Right. Or obviously real estate, things like that, or wedding funds, things like that. Right. But obviously after I started getting off that 9-to-5 life and I don't have that monthly or bi-weekly pay, now I'm getting on a commission. Now I'm forced to like, okay, out of $20,000 commission check, you have to save like 10,000, 7,000, things like that.
Yeah, you can't just go blow it.
You just can't go blow it. You can, but if you make more than what you should be, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, some people when they make a good commission check, like just say you make $30,000 commission check on a property, you're not going to blow out 30,000, but you could probably blow like 10. Yeah, that's cool. That just comes back to your needs, right? Like what makes you happy, right? Yeah. So at that point, that's when you got to really find out. Like when you're on a monthly, it's easy. You know how much you're making. You know how much you need on a month.
You got to be more disciplined when it's not.
You're more, you just need to have a basic thing. But when you don't know how much money you're coming in every time, you need to rely on a reserve fund, next topic, but reserve fund or relying on what you've made and live with that until the next money comes or next dollar comes, right? So that's basically where you start learning on an annual basis rather than a bi-weekly or monthly basis. Because now, okay, you make 100,000, but now what's 100,000 going to? Mortgages. Nowadays, if you're paying $5,000 mortgage, $60,000 has gone to your mortgage right there. Yeah. So there you go. So you got
that's to know. That's $100,000 before tax, right?
That's $100,000 before tax, right? Luckily, I'm real estate, so I got a little write-off and stuff.
Yeah.
So
but you still have taxes.
I still got taxes.
So what do you know about the stock market, and when did you learn, and how did you learn?
So stock market, I actually got exposed to the stock market before real estate, actually. I was looking at, people see trading and stuff like that, investing into stocks, had some money, took some courses, see where it would have taken me. So, got into
like day trading you're talking about?
Yeah, I eventually got there, but first I obviously got into just putting in my money into stocks, regular stocks, just high company tickets, right? And then just going from there.
Like blue chips?
Blue chips, yeah. Blue chips, just invest. Obviously you don't make much money because
You only have a few shares?
You only have a few shares.
Dividends or like dividend
Not
paying
even
stocks?
dividends.
Not even dividends.
Not even
like
dividends.
just tech?
Just tech, basically,
Like
or
Apple and
whatever.
shit?
Whatever. I just felt it was in the beginning. When you started, you just like.
How old were you when you first started putting your money
I was
into stocks?
22, 23.
Yeah.
22, 23.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I say. I would think it was 2016, 2017. So yeah.
Did you think these companies would be worth trillions of dollars back then?
No.
No.
I didn't because that's the value of time, right?
Yeah.
Over time, money works for you. The company.
The top 7 companies are what actually drives the S&P 500.
Basically, right? And I didn't learn this till way later.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got into that. And then obviously once you start getting to the face value of stocks in the stock market, then you start getting to different things like dividends, options, right?
Covered calls.
Yeah, covered call futures
Yeah.
and things like that, right? So you start getting to that. Then I started getting into options, right? I'm like, oh shoot, options is sick.
Yeah.
What the hell? You make this much money in this much
Talking
time?
about leverage, right?
Talking about leverage. But options was, yeah, I made some money, but then obviously you lose as much money too.
You need to pay the tuition to the market, you know,
Yeah.
because that like losing money is the way you learn, and then like, you know, it's not just like, oh, you put the money in, you're gonna win. Like you have to lose money in order to actually get to the point where you can make a ridiculous amount of money down the road, right?
Yeah. And it's all long term, right? You're
Yeah.
not gonna, you'll make your big
It's just
bucks.
like sales, right?
Just like
Like
sales.
you have to develop the skills. You're not gonna like the first year. You're not gonna fucking crush it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So same thing like that. Just like how
And
you
most
put
people
money-
will quit. Most people are gonna fail.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I did quit
Yeah.
trading, like
Yeah.
options trading,
Yeah.
because that shit was crazy. You
Yeah.
gotta be
You have to be
mentally
really into
focused.
it.
So I just think, let me go reserved. Trading was fun,
Yeah.
but it was also very, very stressful. Keeps your mentality like off. You get mood swings and shit too, because
Yeah.
you're just seeing money get lost. You're also winning some money.
Yeah.
but
You have to
then
know
you're
when to
just-
cut your losses.
Yeah,
you have to
and,
be
and
okay
when
with
you're in
losing.
that second, when the candle wick is just
Yeah.
going up and down,
Yeah.
whatever you're on puts or calls,
Yeah.
you're like, oh shit, maybe a little bit more. Then that's when your mind has to be strong. If you're strong up here,
Yeah.
and at that time I wasn't,
Yeah.
right? I was just like, okay, and then I was like, yeah, this shit's not for me.
Yeah.
Let
It's
me
real
go
money.
into-
You're
it's
losing
real
with
money,
real
and,
money.
and with options,
You're leveraging.
your leverage, and you could like puts, for example,
Yeah.
you lose them to money to infinity, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, yeah, fuck this.
Yeah.
Let me just go back to the actual traditional way, or like less risky way, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're trading, you gotta be there. I'm not just doing swinging, but I was really focusing on scalping at that point.
Yeah.
Scalping is
Yeah.
like quick.
People
quick
think
trades.
that like the people who don't know, they think that day trading is gambling, right?
Gambling.
Because they don't know shit. Like you
It
know,
technically
it-
is.
No, it's not.
Scalping is.
It's not gambling because you're first of all you're betting 1 to like win 4, right? It's based on what trades you're placing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like there's so much work that goes into you even placing that trade. Like people think you just wake up and like, oh yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah,
fucking-"
yeah, you gotta
like,
do
there's
your
so much
market.
work that you're putting
I
into
would
that.
still think though scalping is gambling. If you're doing swinging, not gambling.
Okay, but do you think that the casino is gambling when someone comes to the casino and plays?
No,
The
the house
gambler
always
is
wins.
gambling. The house always wins.
But same with the market.
But day trading, you have to make it so that if you lose, you only lose $1. If you win, you win $4.
That's your risk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean risk management.
Risk management, exactly, right? But
That's why it's not gambling.
it's not. Yeah.
A gambler
but-
doesn't manage their risk.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I guess you could call yourself a gambler at that point and go from there. But a lot of people are gambling with trade, like options trading.
Yeah,
just
but
because
like
the
that,
risk
like
and
understanding that though,
Yeah.
like the risk management, like
risk management
it's hard
is
for
super
people,
hard.
right? Yeah.
Risk, like you could understand your risk. It's easy to have a plan and put your risk in.
Yeah.
But when you're in
When-
that
in the
trade,
moment it's different, yeah.
In the moment, the emotions are hitting.
Yeah.
You're up $2,000 or down $2,000. That's when the risk. Like it's easy. They say day trading is 10% skill, 90% mindset,
Yeah, psychology.
psychology,
Yeah.
right? So 10%
That's
is
why
skill.
the people that are really good can literally have like liquid like fucking millions of dollars of cash.
Yeah.
And they don't even like flex because like they're fucking making a boatload of money. But that's from years of fucking discipline and fucking working
Years
on
of
that
discipline,
shit,
years of
right?
discipline. So that's why I'm like, you know what? Let's just go with stocks and
Yeah.
just go into straight investing. I did some swinging after
Yeah.
as well, because
Yeah.
swinging is more long term.
Yeah.
You could actually, it's less like you can actually.
Because you already
time
have
to
that.
think.
You already have the understanding of the candles.
The candles. You have the basic
right?
knowledge.
So
it's just
like
that
when
it's
it's like
just-
Shopify swings, for example, like that's
yeah,
a good,
because scalping you got to decide within seconds.
Yeah.
Swinging you could decide hours, days, right? You can
Yeah.
sleep on it and see, right?
Yeah.
Right, but scalping.
Scalping you're doing to literally produce income.
Yeah, and you're doing
Swinging
quick
is-
trades.
yeah.
Like your trades are max
Yeah.
like five
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah, it's active. It's
in and
active
out.
active income. Really.
In and out,
You have to
active
be
income, and
yeah.
like you have to be mentally on point.
Yeah.
You mentally have to be on point.
Yeah.
And I was
But
just
if
like,
you master it, you can literally work fucking 2 hours a day.
yeah, if you master,
you
it,
master, you can work
and
2
I-
hours a day.
And I know some people, like I don't
Yeah.
know them, but
Yeah.
I took some courses and stuff to learn from
Yeah.
people, and these people were
Yeah.
doing that type of stuff.
Have you heard of like Umar Ashraf?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Umar,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
of
I took
course.
his course.
Well, it's a stock market labs, right?
Yeah, stock market
market.
lab. I took his course.
too.
Yeah.
or some sort of course. I was
Because
in his
he made I think in 2021 he made like $6 million or something.
Yeah, he was really good.
Yeah,
and then
he knows like he's like not one of the fake gurus. Like he's legit. You know what I'm saying?
Everyone made it seem like he was fake.
Yeah.
Once you actually started following him, looking into his community,
Yeah.
seeing what he's about, you realize, okay, this guy's not really fake.
Yeah.
He actually posts a lot of his
Yeah.
losses too.
I paid like $4K for his course.
Bro,
yeah,
it's expensive,
Yeah.
these courses, bro.
Yeah.
And then
it's worth it, bro.
yeah, it's worth it too. But like, it's really more like it also.
You need capital though. You need real capital to
real
really
capital.
start.
You need real capital. But more than that, you really need to keep your mind straight.
Yeah.
If your mental isn't right, do not get into stock. Like
Yeah.
options trading.
Yeah, for me it's like I'm already like following the market all the time anyway.
Yeah.
So I was
if
like,
you're
might as
if
well.
you're already an expert, you're level headed, like you're straight when you're losing money. When there's money being dropping by the second, like I'm talking about every second you're losing $100.
Yeah.
That's literally what it is.
That's why you have
decide.
to know when to cut your
You
losses.
gotta know when to cut your losses, and that's why risk to reward ratios.
Yeah.
So you gotta know your risk, but cutting the risk at that point is the hard part. But
Yeah.
discipline comes back to discipline, right?
Yeah.
Dedication, discipline, consistency, and following that shit.
When did you learn about like index funds and stuff like that? Or,
Around
like,
the same time.
Same. I completely ignored index funds because I'm like, yo, that's not sexy, right? Like that's fucking.
It's the boring
10%.
traditional.
It's boring, right?
Slow method.
I
And
didn't
that, honestly,
understand. I didn't understand about compounding. I didn't understand about like
It's-
you
it's-
know.
you know what
It's
it
like
is?
it's guaranteed. It's done for you. It's literally.
It's the youngster's
you can't lose.
mindset.
You
It's
can't
the
lose.
youngster's mindset.
Yeah.
The go big. I want the big victory.
I wanted the
big
10x.
thing. I want the 10x. You know, not the small 1x every day. Right? Or 2x every
But
day.
yo, with S&P, you double your money every 7 years.
There you go.
Every 7 years, you double your money. Just
go.
make a lot of money and put it in.
And I didn't learn this until after my losses in options, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I should have just done
because
get into
because
index funds.
because like if you the earlier you start, the more time you give it to compound, it doubles at a certain point. Like 400,000 doubles to 800,000. You know what I mean? 800 was the 1.6. You know what I
It's
mean?
all compound, right? So
And we have this thing called TFSA that's tax free,
tax free.
and people don't use it.
People don't use
99% of people don't know what to use it for. Right?
They usually have the saving account.
See? That's what the bank teaches you to do, right?
Fucking hell, bro. Shit. And then the bank that
The
taught
banks
those
that-
people
yeah.
taught us.
Yeah.
And then we make those mistakes, and now we freaking learn actually
Yeah.
from these other people who are actually out here, and just
Yeah.
now you learn it. So
Yeah.
then I was going crazy with the stocks. I was like you win, like I win some money, but then you lose it too.
Yeah.
Right? Like
You're talking
win
about
and you lose
options?
options, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, let me just go back to the traditional ways.
Yeah.
Let me just stay.
Have you lost money on stocks?
Of course,
Individual
of
stocks,
course.
yeah. It
Individual
depends.
stocks,
Like,
of course,
you're talking
right?
about like the Neos and the
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that
like
shit.
the
Yeah,
small
yeah.
companies
Yeah.
that you like
But
gambling.
on blue chip stocks,
Blue chip
you
stocks,
can't really. How can you lose?
Yeah, you can't unless you
Because if you're holding for long term.
yeah, if you're hodling, you're good.
Yeah.
But if you're like if you're trying to do short term gains,
Yeah. Like the person, like if you bought Apple, Google, Amazon, like way back, you're up like a fuck ton. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Meta, remember when it was like at like it went down to like $90? It fucking 5x in like 3 years.
even in
bro.
Nvidia, last 3 years if you
Yeah,
invested
but
in that.
you had to know about like fucking microchips and shit to
But
actually.
bro,
get in early, bro.
now that I think about it, we easily could have done this because
Yeah.
AI we knew was coming from a long time.
Yeah.
I knew since
Yeah.
AI was going to take over
Yeah.
since I was in like high school.
Yeah.
I knew that.
Yeah.
Right? I knew robot, like not AI but robots.
Did you know that Nvidia was gonna like?
If I really looked into it and started making super computer
Yeah.
chips,
Yeah.
bro, that's a thing. Like if I
Yeah.
really digged into that, I
Yeah.
could have. I was like, that's one of my regrets too. I was like I thought of investing in Nvidia too. I
Yeah.
did put a little bit of money, like I don't know, like freaking $100 or something, or $50
Yeah.
bucks, but
Yeah.
ended up pulling it out after and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I was like,
It's because
yeah,
of the instant gratification. You want the instant gratification,
right? And I'm like, shit, just let it hold. Now Nvidia's freaking killing it, bro. I'm
Yeah.
like, fuck.
Like the stock market, like it's overvalued. Like I don't know if you've heard of like so Warren Buffett has this metric called like I think it's like stock market to GDP ratio. Based on that, historically the most the stock market's ever been overvalued is 50%. Right now it's
time?
at huh?
At the time or in that year?
No, forever. Like in
Forever.
history,
Oh, in
the
history.
highest it's ever been in that ratio, stock market to GDP. So like stock market valuation compared to the United States economy.
Yeah.
Right? 50% overvalued, right? And
50%
right now
more
it's
than
over
what
100. Right now it's
100%
over 100.
overvalued?
100. So like
banking on
at some
tank.
point
We're gonna crash.
there could be a crash, right? But obviously Trump wins is gonna fucking fly. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like you think it's gonna continue to go up forever? At some point it's gonna pull back. You know what I mean?
But this comes back to the conversation of the whole economy.
Yeah.
Eventually, this
Yeah.
inflation is going to go up too high and it's going to crash.
Yeah.
And this is what is going to happen. So the cash dollar value
Yeah.
is going to die, as we all know.
Yeah.
And what they're doing, they're printing this money to burn the cash, to destroy the cash.
Mm-hmm.
Destroy the cash so that they could buy with all this extra access dollars, physical dollars or dollar value, to buy assets.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're going to hold those assets until the dollar crashes completely. It is now worthless. We can just burn it. It won't have any value. And they're going to bring a new currency, crypto, their own
crypto.
Own crypto.
Not Bitcoin.
Not Bitcoin.
But that's why it makes sense to own Bitcoin.
Yes, their own to hedge it, right?
Yeah.
And then they're going to make their own crypto and now sell these assets in this new currency. So now whoever has cash is now you're basically fucked. You're dead. And whoever had these assets are now going to start liquidating and go into the new currency.
Yeah.
So you either have assets to buy this new currency or you just have cash and you're done.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. Timeline is it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, it could be 20 years, it could be 30 years.
Yeah.
Right? But that's what's going to happen. That's why.
Where did you first hear this?
When I first hear this?
Yeah.
Where? I don't know where.
How long ago?
Like 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2 years ago when the COVID printing started. I mean,
Yeah.
why would
Who's
someone,
like your go-to person in that,
I have
that
a
time?
few. I have a few.
Yeah.
Honestly, keep one key thing, keep your algorithms on your socials straight. Like on my algorithms are like basketball, like sports, and like financial stuff, and things like that, right? So keep your algorithms straight because even if you're just scrolling on Instagram, you don't.
But who's like what like name like 2 or 3 people
bro,
that
I
you
follow
trust?
so many people,
Yeah,
bro.
I know, me
Like
too,
Grant
bro.
Cardone,
Yeah.
freaking what's it called? Rich Dad Poor. What's his name?
Robert Kiyosaki.
Freaking. Bro, there's so many people, bro.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just follow a bunch of them.
Yeah.
When their content pops up, and subconsciously I'm learning this stuff.
Yeah.
It's just subconsciously being recorded in
Yeah.
my memory.
It makes sense to me.
And the algo,
but I never
right?
heard it specifically like this. That's why.
That thing, yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's simplified version of what's happening, right? And obviously, with back to the following thing, these algos, once you start following these rich people, they're going to start showing you more content of other similar people.
Yeah.
So you just follow them. Now, instead of me opening up and seeing a stupid meme on Instagram, I'm seeing some sort of educational content.
Yeah.
Even if I'm opening up Instagram just for like a quick 10 seconds, now it caught my and it's in my subconscious, slowly learning, right?
Of course.
So that's why you want to fill your algorithms with proper things that fill your headspace, right?
Yeah.
But going back to this topic, that's basically what's happening. I was thinking, why would a government, responsible government, why would they deliberately want to lose the value of money? Mm-hmm. You're gonna go to shit as a nation too, especially as the USD. If the USD crashes, what are they gonna do?
I mean, most governments are irresponsible because basically, like running a government is like running a business, and most people running governments have never run a business in their life. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's why Donald Trump is a good president. You know what I'm saying?
That's why. So that's what it is, right? So I was thinking, like, why would they do that? Now it makes sense because there's just too many people, and the only way to do it is to make the less fortunate not be able to afford these things. So what you do, you make the value of things go up, of assets, right? And how to like the amount of dollar value to purchase them that only the high players can now buy, right? It makes you prices you out of the lower people or the class that can't.
Yeah.
And then they're going to hold on to these assets. Now these assets are also producing cash flow monthly, annually, whatever it is, right? And then when the dollar crashes and they bring out the new currency, they will then sell those assets to the new currency and be rich with that finite amount of dollars that or whatever currency they have at that time. Timeline, I don't know what the scale is.
Yeah.
It could be 5 years, it could be 20, it could be 15, I don't know, it could be 50. It may not even be in our lifetime, but it's going to happen.
It will happen.
It'll eventually happen.
Yeah.
Just a matter of when.
Do you have an emergency fund or reserve fund?
Yeah, well, I just kind of blew it on the wedding kind of thing, but obviously like
okay, before you spent it, what how many months of expenses did you have?
You always want to have 6 months, right? A year would be great. I would say keep like if you can $50,000 to $100,000 in reserve, if you can, obviously, just because that's if you spend $5,000.
If you lose your job,
if you spend $5,000 a month, $6,000 a month, that's like 5-6 months, right?
Yeah,
10 months even if you depending on how much, right? So obviously, and especially in this type of market, it's a recession. It's hard to find jobs.
Yeah,
right. Especially
an emergency fund is the only time you should have money in like a high yield, like just a savings account. You know what I'm saying? Like
that's when you use a savings account as an emergency fund.
Not to invest, not to grow
it'll still grow your money at a small rate.
Yeah.
But that's more so you have that.
You need that liquid
cash, right?
Yeah.
Like you could just go and transfer to your checking account, ready to go pay a mortgage or pay something, right?
Yeah.
So you want to have about 6 to 12 months saved up if you can, obviously. If not, at least three, right? Of your net expenses, right? Yeah, that's basically it. Obviously, some people don't have anything.
Yeah.
I was also at that point too. It's very tough.
That's how you end up in debt again, right?
So you end up in debt again. It's this endless cycle,
Endless
right?
cycle.
So, yeah,
Because shit's always you're always gonna get a curveball, and you're gonna have to spend money that you don't have.
that's life.
That's why you need
life
emergency
is never
fund.
going to
Yeah.
be the same.
Yeah.
Up and down, up
Yeah,
and
yeah.
down. That's what I'm saying. If you make a year where you make a lot of money, do not blow that money right away.
Yeah.
Obviously, go on a nice vacation, spend a little bit because you got to pat yourself and celebrate your victories a
Yeah.
little bit, right?
But everyone should be able to save 10%.
Yeah, 10% you should be able to save at least, right?
Yeah.
On
And then
a-
eventually, you build up your emergency fund that way, right?
Yeah, build up your emergency fund. Once your emergency fund's set, then you move on to your investments.
Yeah.
Once your investments are done and you're happy with your investments, then blow your money, give your kids, do whatever you
Yeah.
want.
Your investments are going to be making you money.
Your investment's
anyways,
going to give you money,
so-
right? Because now at this point, depending on the scale, you're at generational wealth, right? Depending on the scale, right?
Yeah.
So that's really what it is. Obviously, you want to start young because time is always better on your side when you're younger. Because when the time is gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
But you got to start young, stay committed, and be consistent.
What is your financial goal?
Financial goal is to obviously, like everybody, retire early, right? Not having to work, just having to work when I want to, and not for the sake of going to work to make money. So that's a financial goal. I'm sure everyone has shares the same goals. Retire at a young age, hopefully 40. If anything, maybe 45, but that's about it. Maybe hopefully
Yeah.
sooner, depending on how life works out, right? Like I said, if you make those big monies in those years, save as much as you can, right?
Yeah.
If you win the lotto, no one should know about it. Basically like that.
Yeah.
If you make an extra bonus of $20,000 in your job, or you make a sick $100,000 commission check,
This guy said
no one
100
should
figure.
100 figure.
That's crazy.
$100,000 commission check. No one should know about it.
Yeah.
Other than your family, your partner, whatever. Like, don't tell anybody. Just keep it yourself and just use that because basically nothing's changed. You're still in the same lifestyle. Maybe you get a little bit of celebration, but you're moving that money to something else, right?
Yeah.
So stay level-headed and just, that's about it. Just make sure you have a financial goal, and if you don't, find values to give you goals in life, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like I said, money's a tool. So you need money
Yeah.
to achieve any goal in life.
Yeah.
Whether it's
Society's built
financial-
on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the way the world's work.
Yeah.
Like we need to pay the service we give to our the work we do here is the rent we pay to live on the world.
Yeah.
That's
sick,
basically
that's
the way to
sick,
go.
Yeah.
The work you do in the world is the rent you pay to stay here.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Right? So you keep working, and once you paid the rent you need extras for yourself, you keep that, spend what you need to, save the rest, invest it, and just stop working because, I'm 30, I could work every day right now. When I'm 40 with kids, my body's not going to be able to hold up. It's already not holding up.
Yeah.
I'm not like when I was 20 when I could just get up and go play. I
Yeah.
had to stretch every time now.
Yeah, yeah.
Ice
Me
my
too.
knees after
Yeah.
sports. Ice my elbows and joints and everything, right?
Yeah.
Stretch properly, get my mind into it.
Yeah.
So what happens is like your body gets weaker over time, but your knowledge, experience, and everything around you gets more, right? So that's why you use your experience. That's why I say people are older, they have experience, right? And once you've experienced, just stay within those means and just live life.